As a software-defined solution provider, OpenDrives helps creative teams and IT professionals manage, move, and optimize video datasets across on-premises, cloud, and hybrid environments. We're excited to welcome OpenDrives back to NAB Show. Well, they'll be on our show floor as an exhibitor and as a sponsor of this year's Sports Summit. Joining us today for an NAB Show Executive Viewpoint interview is Trevor Morgan, CEO at OpenDrives. Trevor, thanks so much for taking the time to be here.
Absolutely. Looking forward to this discussion, and we're looking forward to another year at NAB. This is yet another year for me, I think 5 or 6 years in a row that I've been. So we're all really looking forward to participating at NAB 2026 in Las Vegas.
Great. Well, we're looking forward to OpenDrives Sports Theater Session, orchestrating frictionless workflows and high-impact content across the sports lifecycle for the modern fan, a Cincinnati Reds case study. So what can attendees expect to learn about OpenDrive's winning professional sports playbook, and why are professional sports a unique opportunity for growth in the media and entertainment industry?
It's a great question. And over the last few years, we have grown our customer base with professional sports teams and professional sports leagues, and of course, other organizations that support what they do, even to the level of broadcast. And what we've realized is that our technology is uniquely positioned to help sports organizations and sports teams. Now, you may ask, okay, well, what are they trying to do? And I'll just put a very fine point on it. Sports organizations these days are using their video estate, meaning all of the video data that they create and that they then work with and push out to their audiences. They're using that basically for monetization purposes. And I don't mean the word monetize in the negative sense. What I mean is that they're using this video for not only to grow their own business, but to grow their fan engagement and to, in essence, create a digital storefront. The more that they're able to take their video content, and I use the word re-swizzle a lot, re-swizzle it in many different ways and put it in front of their audiences, it becomes a digital storefront. And it becomes a mechanism for increasing their fan engagement, for giving fans a way to participate more in the sport and with their favorite team or teams. So it becomes an interactive aspect of the business. It even enables these organizations to not only give to the large media organizations that broadcast and rebroadcast this video an opportunity to work with it, but it also gives smaller creatives, even to the level of social commentators, the ability to re-comment on and engage their audiences with this content. And all of this ultimately means brand growth. We're trying to help sports organizations take their growing body of video and grow their brand through all of this engagement with fans and with audiences. And so that's how we're taking our software and underpinning that brand growth.
The industry has been abuzz about OpenDrives Edge, especially with NAB Show attendees being the first to experience the hybrid cloud edge performance accelerator. Can you give us a look behind the curtain at OpenDrives Edge and how it enables data integrity and synchronization?
I don't think I'm going to surprise anybody by saying that over the past 5 years, all organizations, including media organizations, media and entertainment organizations, as well as sports organizations, have become increasingly distributed. Obviously, in 2020, many of us were forced to do that, but we found great operational efficiencies in that. And by distributed, I mean no longer is everybody working with content that's all centrally located in a central place. The data infrastructures that underpin the capture, working with, and distribution of video, that's become distributed. And the people are distributed. And the applications are distributed. Sometimes your creatives may be across town. They may be across state. They may be across country. Sometimes this can be an international distribution. And with distributed environments, you now have a different problem if you're an organization trying to monetize your video and engage your fans. The problem is that the data, the content has to move between these centralized repositories. In the data storage space, we call that on-premises storage, all the way out, sometimes even to the very edge of their environments. I can give you a quick example. What if you're capturing all of this video content from a game going on in Los Angeles, but you have a team of creatives in Omaha, Nebraska? Well, now you've got a situation where data is probably moving between a more centralized place out to the edge of the environment. What if that data is also being pushed directly to a public cloud repository and then needs to be pulled back either on premises or to the edge? So you see that this becomes a data movement and a shuttling around of data to ensure that the data very quickly and very efficiently between these different environments so that ultimately creatives can get rapid access to the video, rework according to their workflow the data in the way that it needs to be reworked, and then push it out through the various channels without any bottlenecks, without any latency, without anything inhibiting the performance of that workflow. And that's what our Edge product is designed to do. It is designed to sit out at that peripheral edge place in your environment and either collect the data locally for people who are using it more locally at the edge, or even to serve as a caching mechanism if that data is going back and forth to and from a public cloud environment. Very often when creatives are taking data from the cloud, you're actually incurring an egress fee, and those fees can actually add up very rapidly and can really make that operational project much more expensive. So Edge can take data that is in the cloud, bring it local, and then the creatives don't have to access it again and again from the cloud. They can access it locally. So it speeds it up and it makes it much more cost effective because you're not incurring these egress fees. That's the purpose of OpenDrives Edge. It is to make the data even more accessible in a highly performant sense and in a cost-effective sense.
Hey, thank you for that. So after 6 years with OpenDrives, you were announced as OpenDrives CEO this past January, so congratulations on that. Could you speak to OpenDrives' evolving company vision and product roadmap and how products and services such as Astraeus fit into the bigger picture?
That's a great question. And I've been working with OpenDrives since 2018. And from that point to this, I've really seen the data storage industry rapidly evolve away from its traditional roots. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The traditional roots meaning you take information, data, content, whichever word you want to use, and you're storing it on some sort of media. It's resting there on a disk or an SSD or whatever until somebody needs it again. That's kind of traditional data storage. But the industry as a whole, and OpenDrives with it, has moved away from just focusing on that aspect of data storage and more to the level of data is not resting very much anymore. As a matter of fact, to juxtapose it with data at rest, which is what the industry calls it, data more and more is constantly in motion. And it's not just in motion between users and applications and different parts of the infrastructure, but it's being worked on, it's being analyzed, it's being manipulated, depending upon the workflow and the application. And so OpenDrives has really then, in following this trend, moved away from just focusing on traditional data storage and more on what are the services that are being applied to data, to video as a specific type of data, to make it more valuable to the organization. We call that data services. Whether it's being moved or analyzed or protected from a cybersecurity perspective, those are all different data services that occur to data and to content as it's in motion. And we have really transitioned to a data services company, understanding that data is not to us, video content is not to us just something that needs to be put on a media and then recalled, but we need to be part of helping it move amongst these different stakeholders, understanding that services are being applied to it and making sure that that is done highly efficiently in a highly performant sense. So we've moved from a data storage to a data services organization. One of the reasons that we developed our Astraeus product is that we recognized a few years ago that between this movement of video content and data between on-premises and the cloud and even to these edge environments is that we're trying to move data closer to the users as well as to the applications that are working with the data. But that's only part of the solution. Another angle of the solution is to move applications closer to where the data resides. So we built a product called Astraeus that enabled applications to run in a Kubernetes-based containerized environment closer to where the data existed or where the video content existed, whether that's in on-premises storage or in the cloud or out at the edge. Astraeus really was intended and is intended as an overarching view into this very dynamic data infrastructure to orchestrate where applications are running and getting that as close to the data as possible. The purpose for that ultimately, and I've said it before, is to make sure that the users and the applications are running as efficiently and as performantly as possible. So let me go ahead and describe this overarching data environment and where our products reside within it. Our flagship product, which is Atlas, is the software-defined storage that drives on-premises data and video content storage. And that would be usually within your data center or on your premises in the past, right where your users were. We also have a variation of Atlas that resides in the public cloud, and we call that Atlas Cloud. And that is to ensure that the same Atlas functionality that works on on-premises storage can do the exact same thing in those public cloud environments. OpenDrives Edge was designed to sit at the edge of these environments to serve as a means of pulling the data away from these centralized areas and out to the edge where potentially your remote crews are working with video content. And it also serves as an interconnect, as I mentioned before, to public cloud environments where potentially you have video content stored as well. So it sits out at the edge of these environments and is able to cache that data locally and make working with that video content much more performant and much faster. So when you look at this data infrastructure from that bird's eye view, then where you have these different data homes, these different areas on premise or in the cloud or at the edge where data is either stored or being worked locally, You need an orchestrating element to ensure that the data can move between these environments, or potentially that applications running in a containerized fashion can be moved closer to those data homes, to those environments. So Astraeus is our data services platform that can enable the data movement and can also move those applications closer to where the data happens to be, and can speed up the workflows and the access to that video content.
And one last question for you, Trevor. For attendees, OpenDrives will have 2 locations at the NAB Show this year. Can you describe what they can expect to learn at each location?
We're trying something new this year at NAB 2026. In previous years, we've had a single location, a single booth where we held all of our business discussions, met new prospects, and performed our demonstrations. This year, we're going to be at 2 locations at NAB 2026. We'll have a tabletop pod at the Sports Business Hub outside of the Sports Theater. And in this location, we'd love to meet with people who are unfamiliar with OpenDrives, run them through some demonstrations of either Atlas or Edge, and really introduce our company and our products to them. However, we also have a cabana, and at the cabana, we can really sit down and have a bit more of an intimate conversation with prospects and customers, try to understand the workflows that your organization is running and the ways in which we can underpin that workflow. So for meeting up with us and seeing what we have to offer, check us out at the Sports Business Hub. If you then would like to meet with us in a more private setting where we can have a quieter, more intense conversation about how we can help you, we'd love to also have you at the cabana.
This is great. Thank you so much. This is really exciting news, and I appreciate your time today, so thank you for joining us. To hear more about future-proof growth and how the Cincinnati Reds increased fan engagement by decreasing workflow friction, come see OpenDrives Session live in the Sports Theater on Sunday, April 19th at 3:35 p.m. We can't wait to welcome you live and in person at the Las Vegas Convention Center for the 2026 NAB Show, April 18th through the 22nd. We'll see you there.